The parking lot was almost empty. Only 3 cars under the yellow light of the streetlights. The sound of a shopping cart echoed in the distance, cutting through the silence of the night. The cold air carried that feeling of the end of the day, when the city slows down, but not everyone goes home. An elderly man was walking slowly toward his car. White hair, worn brown coat, bags in both hands, short, tired steps. He didn't look to the sides, only to the ground, as if he had made this path 1,000 times. But tonight would be different. 2 figures appeared between the cars. Quiet, calculated, glances exchanged without words. One of them nodded his head, a green light. The other smiled from the side. It was not a smile of joy. It was from someone who has already decided what he is going to do. They began to get closer. Firm steps. Silent. No rush. They knew he was alone. They knew no one was looking, or at least, that's what they thought. The elderly man stopped next to the car. He tried to balance the bags while looking for the key in his pocket. Her hands trembled a little, not from fear yet, just from tiredness. He hadn't noticed, but they were already a few meters away. One of them quickened the pace. The other opened his arms, blocking any escape route. The trap was set. The old man raised his head, and then he did. 2 men. Aggressive posture. Cold looks. No good intentions. His body stiffened. The bags almost fell out of his hands. He took a step back, but it was too late. They were too close. One of them spoke, in a low and cutting voice. "Pass your wallet, Grandpa." The old man took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but his hands trembled now, not tired, of real fear. And then, in the distance, between 2 parked cars, something moved. A silhouette. Slow steps. Firm. Coming towards them. The bandits haven't realized it yet, but someone was seeing everything, and they chose the wrong victim. The old man took another step back. His back touched the car. There was nowhere to go. The bags fell to the floor, the sound of something breaking inside one. He didn't even look. His eyes were fixed on the 2 men in front of him. One of them took another step. Crooked smile. Exaggerated confidence. "Won't it make it easy, Grandpa?" Only the wallet. Fast. The other bandit circled to the side, blocking any chance of escape. He didn't speak. I just watched, hands in pockets, relaxed posture, like someone who has done it before, as if you know there is no risk. The old man tried to speak, but his voice came out weak. I have almost nothing. We'll decide what you have." The phrase was accompanied by a light push on the shoulder. Non-violent yet, just enough to make it clear who was in charge there. The old man swayed, lost his balance for a second. He held onto the car door, accelerated breathing, hands shaking, eyes searching around. Anyone. But the parking lot was empty, or it seemed to be. The second bandit took his hand out of his pocket slowly. Just the silhouette of something dark, maybe a gun, maybe just the threat. It didn't matter. The message was clear. "Last chance, old man." The old man closed his eyes for a second. He took a deep breath. He reached into his back pocket, trembling. They had won. He knew that. There was no choice. But then, a sound. Steps. Slow. Firm. Echoing in the concrete. Coming from the opposite direction. The bandits did not turn around immediately, still focused on the elderly. But something has changed in the air. A different tension. It was no longer just fear. Something else. The old man opened his eyes. He looked over the shoulder of the 2 men. And for the first time in minutes, his expression changed. It was no longer pure panic. Hope. The steps continued. Closer now. More audible. Constance. No rush. Without hesitation. One of the bandits finally turned around, and what he saw made his smile disappear. A figure walked among the cars. High, broad shoulders. Neutral expression. Stare at the scene ahead. He wasn't running. I wasn't screaming. Only, "Come." And something about the way he moved. The weight of each step, the controlled posture, made the second bandit turn around as well. The two froze for a moment, because they recognized the face, and at that moment, they realized that the game had changed completely. The first bandit took a step back, unintentional, instinctive, like someone who saw something that the body recognized before the mind fully processed. He blinked twice. He looked at his partner. Back to the approaching figure. "Bro." The voice came out low, almost a whisper. "This guy." The second bandit did not answer. I just watched. The hand that was in his pocket came out slowly. Empty. Nervous fingers. The relaxed posture of seconds ago had evaporated. Steven Seagal continued walking. It didn't accelerate. It has not decreased. He just moved forward with the same steady cadence, eyes fixed, impenetrable expression. It wasn't anger. It was not an explicit threat. It was something worse. It was certainty. The elderly man was still leaning against the car, but now he breathed differently, less breathless, more controlled. He didn't know who that man was, but I knew what he represented at that moment. Interruption. Change. Possibility. The first bandit tried to regain his pose. He straightened his shoulders. He lifted his chin, but the voice came out an octave higher than normal. "Hey man, that's not with you. He goes on his way." Seagal stopped, 3 meters away. Absolute silence, nor the wind. Not even cars in the distance. Only the accelerated breathing of the two bandits filling the empty space. He tilted his head slightly to the side. He looked at the old man, then to the two men, back to the elderly, analyzing, measuring, deciding. "Let him go." The voice came out deep, calm, without emotion, just one command. The second bandit stepped forward, trying to look confident, trying not to let on that her legs wanted to do just the opposite. Or what? Seagal did not respond with words. It just took a step forward, and it was enough. The two retreated at the same time, synchronized, as if an invisible thread pulled them back. The bravado melted away. The control they had over the situation, over the old man, over the parking lot, over that night, disappeared in a single movement. The first bandit looked at his partner, eyes wide. Silent message, "We need to get out of here." But pride still held. We were just talking to him. Seagal took another step. Closer now, immobile posture, arms loose at your sides. I was not in a fighting position. It didn't have to be. The mere presence was enough. Last time. Brief pause. "Let him go." The elderly man, still leaning against the car, felt something change in the air. It was no longer about fear. It was about choice. And the two men in front of him were realizing, second by second, that they had made the wrong choice from the start. One of them swallowed, the other loosened his fists, but neither has moved yet, because even though they knew they should leave, pride still whispered that they could try. The parking lot seemed smaller now, as if the invisible walls had closed around those 5 men. 3 standing, one leaning against the car, one watching everything from a few meters away. The first bandit looked at the ground, then to the partner, then to Seagal, trying to find a way out that didn't exist. His body wanted to retreat, but the ego held its feet in place. "We don't want trouble, man." Seagal did not respond. He just waited. Property, patient. As if you know that time is on your side, like anyone who has seen this kind of hesitation before, and you know exactly how it ends. The second bandit took half a step to the side, testing, seeing if I could create an angle, an advantage, anything that would change the balance of the scene. He couldn't. Seagal followed the movement with his eyes, without turning his head, without moving the body, just the look, steadfast, deliberate, making it clear that nothing was going unnoticed. The elderly man finally got out of the car, a sidestep, slowly, silent, creating distance. No one stopped him. No one looked at him. All attention was focused on the figure standing in front. The air was heavy. It was not the tension of an imminent fight. It was worse. It was the tension of someone who knows he has already lost, but has not yet admitted it. The first bandit took a deep breath. He tried one last bluff. "Okay, we're leaving." "No." He took a step back, but the partner did not move. And there, in that second of mismatch between the two, something broke. The second bandit clenched his fists. He looked at Seagal with something between defiance and despair, as if a last spark of pride was burning inside him. As if retreating now is worse than trying. "You're not that strong." The sentence came out weak, without real conviction, but it was said, and in the next instant, he moved forward. It was not strategic. It was not calculated. It was pure impulse, anger, frustration, the desperate attempt to prove something, to oneself, to one's partner, to the universe. But Seagal had already seen the movement before it even began. He moved. Not fast, non-explosive, just efficient. A sidestep. The hand rising at just the right time, intercepting the pulse in the air, rotating the body, using the aggressor's own impulse against him. In less than 2 seconds, the bandit was face down on the hood of the car, arm twisted in the back, face pressed against the cold metal. No chance of reaction. Silence. The first bandit froze, eyes wide, hands raised instinctively, not in attack, in surrender. The elderly man took another step back, watching, breathing a sigh of relief. Seagal kept the pressure on the arm of the immobilized man. Not excessive, just enough, controlled, professional. And then he looked at the other bandit, without saying anything. He just stared, and the message was given. The first bandit couldn't take his eyes off his partner, prisoner, asset, defenseless. Everything they had been 5 minutes ago, confident, in control, dangerous, was gone, evaporated, as if it had never existed. He looked at Seagal, then for the elderly, back to the partner in the hood, and he finally understood. There was no way out. The immobilized bandit tried to move, a sudden movement, instinctive, desperate, but Seagal adjusted the pressure on his arm, minimal, surgical, and the movement stopped immediately, replaced by a muffled moan of pain. Seagal's voice came out low, steadfast, no threat, just fact. "It won't get better." The man stopped fighting, panting against the metal. Face turned to the side, eyes closed. Not physical pain. Of humiliation, of absolute defeat. The other bandit took another step back, then another, his hands still raised, whole body shaking now. Not cold, out of pure fear. I'm not going to do anything, man. I swear." Seagal did not respond. She just kept her gaze fixed on him, measuring, evaluating, deciding if it was true or desperation. The silence dragged on, heavy, stifling. And then, in the distance, a sound cut through the air. Sirens. Weak at first, distant, but getting higher by the second. The first bandit closed his eyes, shoulders dropped. All the bravado, all the control, all the illusion of power. It all collapsed in a single defeated breath. Seagal let go of the immobilized man's arm. Slowly, controlled, he took a step back. But she didn't take her eyes off him, ready to react if he tried something. He didn't try. He just slid off the hood and fell to his knees on the ground. Hands on the back of his head, surrender position, without looking up, without looking at anyone. The partner did the same. Knees on concrete, head down, irregular breathing. Two men who, minutes ago, thought they were in control of the situation, who chose who would be the victim, who decided how the night was going to end. Now they were just waiting. They were waiting for the police. The handcuffs were waiting. They expected the consequences. The sirens got louder. Blue and red lights began to reflect off the surrounding cars. 3 vehicles entered the parking lot. Doors opening. Police officers leaving. Hands on weapons. Attentive eyes. A police officer approached Seagal. "Are you okay?" Seagal nodded. Then he pointed to the 2 men on the ground. "They tried to rob that gentleman." Brief pause. "I saw everything." The policeman looked at the elderly man, then to the bandits, then back to Seagal. Recognition crossed his face. No surprise. Just quiet understanding. Understood. 2 police officers approached the bandits. Handcuffs, reading rights, mechanical movements, professionals. The old man observed everything, still shaking a little, but not out of fear. Of relief, of shock, of inexplicable gratitude. He looked at Seagal. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words did not come out. Seagal looked back, and he only nodded his head slightly. There was no need to speak. The message had already been delivered. The 2 bandits were placed in the vehicle, doors slamming, lights still flashing, radios crackling with codes and coordinates. The scene that was once empty and dangerous was now full of movement, of order, of justice happening in real time. A police officer approached the elderly man, notepad in hand. Sir, I will need an account of what happened. The old man nodded, still processing. Less shaky hands now, but her voice was still weak when she began to speak. They surrounded me. They asked for the license. One of them, I think I had a gun. The policeman took notes, professional, attentive. But every now and then he looked at Seagal, who remained a few steps behind, watching, quiet, letting the process take its course. And then, the old man looked at Seagal. He showed up. He saved my life. The words came out loaded. It was not an exaggeration. It was not dramatization. It was pure recognition, simple, true. The policeman continued to note. Then he turned to Seagal. Mr. Seagal, could you give us your version of events? Seagal stepped forward, calm voice. Direct, no flourishes. I was going back to the car. I saw the 2 surrounding him. I understood the intention. I approached. I asked them to let go. One of them tried to attack me. I immobilized. The other gave up. Brief pause. That was it. The policeman finished taking notes. He looked at the 2 men, then to the vehicles in the back. We will need the 2 to come to the police station tomorrow to formalize the statement. But for today, he closed the block. I think everything is solved. Seagal nodded. The elderly too. The police began to disperse. Vehicles backing up, lights going out. The parking lot slowly returning to silence. To emptiness. As if nothing had happened. But it did. The elderly man stood still, looking at Seagal, trying to find the right words, the ones that did justice to what had just happened. Seagal noticed. She turned to him. Are you okay? The old man blinked a few times. He took a deep breath, and finally he said, I don't even know how to thank you. If you hadn't, Seagal raised his hand slightly, interrupting gently. You don't need to thank them. Pause. I just did what was right. But anyone would have done the same. It was not false modesty. It was not a catchphrase. It was genuine belief. And the elderly man realized this. He realized that, for that man, intervening was not heroism. It was just the obvious. The old man wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Fear no more. Of pure emotion. My wife. She passed away 3 years ago. His voice trembled. I was coming back from the supermarket, buying the things she always bought. Long pause. If they had... He couldn't finish it. Seagal stepped forward. He put his hand on the old man's shoulder, steadfast, reassuring. But it didn't happen. You are fine. He will return home. Go store the purchases. Go sleep in peace. The old man looked at him, teary eyes, and he nodded. Thank you. Whispered voice. Yeah, thank you very much. Seagal squeezed his shoulder lightly. Then he let go. He took a step back. Take care, sir. He began to walk away. Calm steps. Controlled cadence. Going back to where he had come from. The elderly man stayed there, watching, until the silhouette disappeared between the cars. And only then did she realize that her hands had stopped shaking. The elderly man was left alone in the parking lot. The vehicles were gone. The lights out. The sound of sirens fading into the distance. Just him, his car, and the bags still scattered on the ground. He lowered himself slowly, knees popping. Hands shaking less now, but still uncertain. He took a bag. Then another. Something had broken inside one of them. glass, probably. But it didn't matter. He was alive. He put the bags in the back seat. He closed the door. He stood still for a moment, looking at the place where it had all happened. Where two men had decided that he would be an easy victim, where another man had decided otherwise. He took a deep breath. The air came in differently now, lighter, cleaner. He got in the car. He closed the door, hands on the wheel. But he didn't start the engine immediately. It just stayed there, feeling the cold leather under my fingers, the silence all around. Life goes on. He thought of his wife, what she would say if she were there. Probably something like, "You've always been lucky. Stubborn old man." And he would smile. That smile he still saw every time he closed his eyes. He smiled too. For the first time that night, he started the engine, and he went home. But the story doesn't end when he turns the corner. She remains in the back seat of the car, where two men sit in silence, tight handcuffs, heads down, irregular breathing. One of them looks out the window. He sees the parking lot passing by. He sees the streetlights. He sees the world out there. The world he won't see properly for the next few months or years. He closes his eyes. He tries to remember the exact moment when everything fell apart, when confidence turned into fear, when control turned to surrender, when they stopped being predators and became prey. Was that when they saw his face? Was that when they heard the voice? Or was it before that? When did they choose that man, that parking lot, that night? He doesn't know. He only knows that, somehow, they thought they were invincible, that no one would stop them, that the world would bow down to them. And in 5 minutes, they learned they were wrong. The partner next door does not speak. He just looks at his own hands, for the handcuffs, for the distorted reflection in the window. He remembers the old man's face, of the fear in the eyes, of the trembling in his hands, and he feels something he didn't expect to feel. Shame, not defeat, not of being caught, but who he had become. What kind of person does it? What kind of man chooses the weakest as targets? The car turns a corner. The parking lot disappears from view, but the weight of what happened there remains, because some lessons don't come from words. They come from moments, of choices, of consequences that you cannot undo. And that night, two men learned something they will carry forever. You never know who is watching. And the evil, always, always, find those who are ready to stop him. If you'd be relieved to see someone like Steven Seagal arriving at this time, leave a like now, because sometimes justice has a face, and it arrives exactly when it is needed. 3 weeks later, the same parking, same yellow light as the street lights, same cars scattered around. But something had changed, not in the structure, not in the scenario. In the air, the elderly man parked in the same place. He turned off the engine. He sat for a moment, looking around, watching, checking, but not afraid. With awareness, he got out of the car. He took the bags. He walked to the door, locked, and he left. Firmer steps this time, because he had learned something that night. Not about violence, not about revenge, but about the fact that sometimes the world puts the right people in the right places, and that he was lucky, elsewhere, far from there. Two men sit in separate cells, concrete walls, fluorescent light, heavy silence broken only by distant sounds, doors slamming, voices echoing, footsteps in the hallway. One of them is lying on the narrow bed, looking at the ceiling, hands behind his head, but he is not relaxed, only thinking, going over the night, frame by frame, trying to understand where they went wrong. But deep down, he knows. They made a mistake when they decided they were above the consequences, that they could choose anyone, that no one would interfere. They were wrong to forget that the world doesn't work like that. The other is seated, back against the wall, knees bent, head resting on his arms. He remembers the old man's look, of fear, of fragility, and he wonders, how many times have I done this? How many times have I chosen someone vulnerable and thought everything was fine? There is no answer that comforts him, just the growing weight of choices he can't undo. In another corner of the city, Steven Seagal walks down a busy street, hands in pockets. Neutral expression. No one recognizes it. Or maybe they do. But they respect the space. He doesn't think about that night anymore. Not because it didn't matter, but because, for him, it was just another moment. Once again, when he saw something wrong and decided to act. Simple as that. No speeches, no drama. Without expecting recognition, he turns a corner. He disappears among the crowd, and life goes on. But the lesson remains. It floats in the air. It echoes in police station corridors. It resonates in empty parking lots. It is engraved in the memory of an elderly man who now locks the car with more attention, and in the consciousness of two men who learned, too late, that the world does not protect them from their own choices. You never know who's watching what you do. You never know when the wrong person will become the right witness. You never know when the universe will put someone in the way who won't pretend they didn't see it. And maybe that's how it should be. Perhaps the world works better when there are people who do not pass by, who do not lower their heads, who don't let fear decide for them. People who simply, they do what is right. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how strong you think you are. It doesn't matter how invincible you feel. There is always someone stronger, more prepared, more willing to intervene. And when that someone shows up, all that's left is to accept the consequences of the choices you've made. He comments, they chose the wrong victim, if you like stories that look like a movie scene. Because sometimes, life imitates art, and justice comes just when you least expect it. The story could end there, with the elderly safe at home, with the bandits behind bars, with Steven Seagal moving on with his life. But stories like this don't end when the action ends. They end when the lesson sets in, when the echo of choice spreads, when other people hear it and think, what if it were me? Because it's not about an impeded robbery. It's about something bigger. It's about the fact that we live in a world where people make choices. Every day, at every moment. And these choices carry weight. Choose to intimidate. Choose to threaten. Choose the weakest as targets. Or choose to intervene. Choose to protect. Choose not to pretend you didn't see it. Two paths. Same crossroads. Completely different consequences. The bandits chose the first, and they paid the price. The old man didn't choose anything. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But someone chose him. Someone decided that it wasn't going to happen. Not that night. And that made all the difference. Think for a second. How many times have you seen something happening and looked away? How many times have you noticed an injustice and thought, it's not me. Better not to get involved. We are not judging. It's human. It is survival instinct. But what if more people did as he did? Not with violence, not with cinematic heroism, but simply not passing straight. Not pretending that they didn't see it, not letting fear decide for them. Would the world be different? Perhaps, maybe not. But one thing is certain. For that elderly man, that night, it was different. Because someone chose to be present. He chose to act. He chose to do the right thing. And at the end of the day, maybe that's what it's all about. Of small moments, small choices, small interventions that change the course of a life. The criminals are still serving time. The elderly man still shops at the same market, but now he looks around, not with paralyzing fear, with conscious attention. Steven Seagal continues his life, quietly, without seeking credit, just living with the awareness that you did what should be done. And the lesson keeps echoing, in every empty parking lot, in each choice made in a hurry. At every moment when someone decides, act or pretend I didn't see it. You never know who's watching what you do. He never knows when his choices will meet their consequences. You never know when the universe will put someone stronger, more prepared, more willing, right in your way. And maybe that's how the balance is maintained, not through great heroes, not through perfect justice, but through ordinary people who, at crucial moments, decide not to be passive. They decide to be the interruption, the intervention, the difference. Evil always comes back to those who practice it. Not always fast, not always obvious, but always. And when he comes back, all that's left is the echo of the choices you made when you thought no one was looking. Share this video, not by us, but because someone needs to remember today that their choices matter, that the world is seeing, and that justice sometimes comes at the exact moment when it is most needed. The voice returns, serious, paused, steadfast. If you'd be relieved to see Steven Seagal coming in at this time, leave a like now, because sometimes justice has a face, and it arrives just when it is needed. Comment, they chose the wrong victim, if you like stories that look like a movie scene. Because sometimes life imitates art, and justice comes just when you least expect it. Subscribe to the channel, and send this video to your friend who will like a story like this. Not for us, but because someone might need to remember that the world still has people who don't pass by. The sound of footsteps returns, slow, firm, echoing in empty concrete. The same steps that changed everything that night. And then, absolute silence. And, not with explosion, not with dramatic music, not with a forced climax, only with the weight of a silent truth. The world is watched. Choices have consequences. And sometimes, just sometimes, the right person is in the right place at the right time.